Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hello. Welcome to Highly Uncircumcised. And again, I have this big cheese on my face before we start an episode because you've said something so ridiculous. Before we started the episode, I look like I just walk around and smile.
Well, the thing is, whenever I burp, which I do because it happens,
Frequently.
I'm drinking coffee, so it happens. Michael Moore said he's now going to vomit because he heard me burp. And I said, listen, remember this gender spectrum that you're on, and like there's women and there's men, and here's the middle, and like I'm right here and so are you. Now you have moved like here. Like I'm still here and you're like here. Like closer to the princess girl side. Like you're getting closer. Like you need to relax.
Let me just, for our listeners' benefit, explain something here. The reason why I'm close to vomiting now is because of two reasons. A, Nicole used to burp in my face all the time when we would sit next to each other at the casino.
I do not recall that.
And she's a lie and the truth is not in her. She would literally store up gas in her stomach to let it out in one huge 5-second long burp. Now, it was funny because it was like, oh my God, this little chick is like, just sounds disgusting. So it was hilarious because what woman does that in front of you? But one day she had just eaten like the worst salmon salad ever. And it was like an hour or two after she ate this salmon salad that already stunk anyway, prior to going in her mouth. She let out this burp. It just like literally had me see my own life flash before my eyes when she did it in my face. I honestly wanted to just lose everything inside me at that moment and just throw up all over you. Now, you do that purposefully now into the microphone. You get super close to the microphone. You put your whole mouth over the microphone and you let out these disgusting burps before we start these shows. So guess what it does for me? It triggers the time when I smelled that nasty, rancid salmon that you ate and devoured and then decided to share with me a couple hours after you've done it. So don't be commenting on where I'm at on the princess girly scale. There's not a man on earth that could have taken that burp the way I took that burp when you hit me with that burp.
And furthermore, now Michael's going to be wearing a skirt on every episode. Don't at me, feminists. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. He's going to now be wearing a skirt on every episode.
Making skirts look good.
Making skirts normalized again. Men can wear skirts.
If I was in Scotland, it wouldn't be a big deal, right?
Hey, but you're not. All right, what are we going to talk about today? Let's talk about something super exciting.
Let's talk about losing your friends.
I don't know.
Ghosting. Let's talk about ghosting. Yes. Ghosting. You know, I'm totally old and not into social media, so that's just one of the few terms that I've learned in the past couple of years is this whole ghosting phenomenon. I guess that's when you like swipe right on somebody and then don't show up. Tell me what ghosting is.
You know what ghosting is.
I know what I think ghosting is.
You know what ghosting is because we both have a friend that does it.
Why don't you tell us what you really think?
But I think it's a phenomenon that's becoming bigger. And for those who don't know what ghosting is, and it is really usually used, the term is usually used in pertaining to dating, I would guess. And there's all the apps now. So yeah, so like you get on the app and you swipe and you talk with somebody and like maybe you're going to set something up and then all of a sudden one of them ghosts the other, which means that they just cut all conversation. They don't end up meeting. They don't end up showing up where they said they were going to show up. They don't end up talking again. And it leaves the other person like, wait, what happened? where did you go? Like, we were talking and it was great. And then like, nothing. And so this phenomenon is happening more and more. And if you've ever been a recipient of somebody who has ghosted you, you know how it feels. It feels like straight shite. Like you're just like, what? Why? Because there's all these questions. Like there's so much confusion. Like, why would somebody do that? Like, why would they talk to me and then just ignore me? Right. Um, so I think so many people are really having this issue, especially like you said, with the dating apps more. And so let's figure it out. Let's figure out this problem. Let's solve this problem for our world.
So I personally feel like and I think ghosting goes way beyond dating or anything like that. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
I think it's
It's
just
where
a
it's become
human,
big.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a human behavior that's become, it feels like it's become almost excuse me, acceptable. But I think ghosting affects those of us who are more reliable than anyone else. And I don't mean like it literally affects you because you're reliable and you would have shown up and they didn't show up. I mean, I personally, if I say I'm going to be somewhere or I say I'm going to do something or, I tell you what time of day I'm going to show up or whatever, like 99.99% of the time you can count on me. And I think you and I definitely know that about each other. Like, I've never just not shown up somewhere because you invited me or something. But I think that when you comport yourself like that in life, and then you deal with someone who doesn't deal on that same level, it just becomes more like frustrating. So I think for the people that ghost people, I think they probably could care less if they get ghosted. But for someone like me or someone like you that are pretty punctual and pretty stand up when we give our word or whatever, it just sucks. And that's probably a micro level. So now we're talking about like, hey, we had an appointment to have dinner or something and the person didn't show up. But then the ghosting that really sucks to me is the macro level ghosting where like the person or persons just literally bounces from your life like with no trace, right? It's just like, they were there and you were cool and, you love them, they love you. And again, this doesn't even have to be, it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic at all. It doesn't matter the nature of the relationship, just the relationship, the person just up and decides like, yeah, I'm out without any sort of, talking, texting, anything like that. Um, and I guess for me to give an example and not in any way to like name anyone, but just to give sort of a high level example would be like if you had a friend that that you considered a pretty close, acquaintance or whatever, and you text them and it takes them days to text you back. And then at a point, they never text you back. And then you just end up seeing them somewhere and it's almost like they're like, hey Mike, how you doing, and how's everything, and man, good to see you and all that, and you're just thinking like, dude, didn't I didn't I reach out to you in you know January of 2016 and it's now like 2021, like what happened? That kind of frustrates me to no end because I'm just not like that.
Because you're living it. That's the thing, right? And that's what people don't realize. Like the story you're telling is that you're actually living with this friend of ours. But um and that's hard. So if you've never experienced it, like that's ghosting to like, I mean, not to hurt this friend's feelings, but I mean that's ghosting to the like immense level, right? Like to literally be best friends with somebody, or at least you think they are, and then they just disappear out of your life. And then like 6 months later, they come back like, "Hey, what's up?" Like, "Oh, hey, you, you silly goose, you, you're so silly. I texted and called you like 800 times. It's so weird." So it is. I think you're right. I think it is definitely harder to deal with as a person who's trying to build authentic relationships with people. It's hard to understand, but I've been trying to understand it, and I think it. To me, I think it's it's not wanting confrontation. It's like avoiding confrontation, right? I think that's probably maybe one of the biggest things is like
You mean the reason why they've
they
ghosted you, or
ghost.
you don't saying
Yes.
something to? Oh,
Yes, like they ghost people, or anybody ghosts somebody. I think it's maybe it's even, trying to be nice, thinking that like, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to, in their own mind, whatever, they have to tell themselves to make it all right. But I think probably like the biggest thing is just like the lack of the confrontational skills, and maybe even like lack of confrontation skills within themselves, like to confront those emotions or feelings or whatever it is they're feeling that has triggered them to the point where all of a sudden they just ghost, and they just don't show up, or they just don't call anymore, they just don't. So, and again, that's the crazy thing about that. Well, I guess not the crazy thing. I mean, it gets back to the thing that we talk about all the time is like, the mental capacity that we have in our country. I don't know if this ghosting is a worldwide phenomenon or if it's a United States thing, but um, mentally we're suffering, mentally, like we're lacking, I think, and it's showing in these ways. And ghosting has just become like a huge topic, especially in dating. Like it's to me, it seems to me and you, it seems very simple. Like you get on the app, you connect with somebody, you chat, and then if you don't feel it, like, oh, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't feel it. I made another decision in my life, or I'm changing, right? Just you can do a one liner and be like, no, thank you, right? But people prefer to just drop off and ghost, and that just seems like emotional immaturity. And I think that's probably where I could describe most of us. And I'm not even saying not me as well, not that I ghost, but emotionally immature, I feel like, is where we're at in our country. And how do we fix that? I kind of feel like maybe it's a role of education, and I think we are starting to add it in, how to manage our emotions and respond to them rather than reacting, and how we have healthy conversations even if they're hard, and how do we build those communication skills, like, because ghosting straight trash.
trash. So I know why you would say this, but you're not necessarily correct. I actually wasn't thinking of any one specific person, because I actually was thinking of three people off the top of my head that throughout the course of my life that I felt like I was close to, that ghosted. And so it wasn't. It's not just one specific person. But again, I know why you would say that. And then the other thing is, I actually think it's probably not just a United States thing. I think it's probably I would say the West, but I actually think that it's probably specific to those who are heavy social app users. Because I feel like the whole ghosting phenomenon started with social media and the advent of being able to take a look at who you want to be with, and then make an initial contact, and then you talk to them, and whatever, and it works out or it doesn't work out. But anyway, I think that social media has been such a, just what's the word I'm trying to use, uh detrimental
Yeah, but do you
thing
think
for society.
do you think it's causing it, or do you think it's just bringing it to light? Because I
I think
feel
it
like,
I think it brings it out.
yes,
I
I,
think
I
it
feel
brings
like
it out.
I feel like it's been there. Like I have a feeling like ghosting's probably been a thing for all time. But
Yeah, I
we just
mean, of
know
course.
about it more now as we've now
But it was a
experienced it.
big deal back in the day if you got stood up, because isn't that really what the
Yeah,
it's just
that's
the new
true.
word for being stood up, right? It
That's
was a
true.
huge deal. Like, people didn't do that regularly. You didn't just stand people up. Now it's just like, oh, he ghosted me, she ghosted me, on to the next person. So being desensitized to it, I think, just makes it easier for it to happen again and again and again and again and again. And people have taken it from just the dating thing, right? The Tinder age of social media, to like literally just full on relationships. Like, hey, I ghosted, and now I'm back, or I ghosted and I never came back, or whatever the case may be. I think it's just become become acceptable, and that's unacceptable to me. I think I think one of the main pillars of friendship is simply being stable,
Showing up.
showing up, just being able to count on the person. So I'm not
Yeah.
talking about, does their personality suck, do they have different views than you, are they just ugly or something like that.
Are they ugly? That
No,
is
I'm
a
just saying,
main
like,
pillar of
I'm talking
friendship.
about when you're talking
You
about
better be beautiful.
romance. I'm saying, like, if it was like a romantic thing, right, and you just weren't attracted to them. I'm saying that the basic foundation of probably any relationship is to at least be there, right? I don't know if it bothers you, but it tends to bother me a little bit when I text someone and I don't get a response for, like, if the response doesn't come within, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. I think that's like maybe my cutoff, where it just becomes like, it just feels a little bit rude. And I'm talking about people who you're semi close with. So I'm not talking about someone who you just met and you just throw out a text. I'm not expecting, just flash returns and all that kind of stuff. But I'm saying, like, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, your good friend, your coworker, if it's like some work related thing, someone who you have a relationship with. Like, I just feel on some level like, you know, there's almost kind of a small responsibility to respond to people. I think it sucks when you just can't get any sort of response from somebody. I think it just
I don't know if I
think
care
maybe
about
it
like
makes you feel diminished.
Yes, I think that it makes you question your own value and your own worth, and then it makes you question, why are you questioning your own value and worth based on this person, right? It just sends you in your own spiral. I don't think that 4 or 5 hours on a text, like, even whatever. Some people just don't even respond to texts for a while, but if they have a reason, they come back and it's like, hey, you know what, I was out of town for this weekend or whatever. Like, sure, but obviously, if it's a girlfriend or boyfriend and your normal inclination is to be texting all the time, yeah, you would expect that. If all of a sudden they don't text and they don't say anything, well, it's probably the start of it's going downhill. Like, ghosting is coming, right? And I don't think it's, you said like it's acceptable. I don't think it's acceptable. Like, I
think it's becoming acceptable.
I don't think it is. I don't think just because we are hearing about it more doesn't mean that it's becoming acceptable. Maybe people think that, or think that, and I think maybe we just need to talk about, like, how do we, I mean, I wish we could have like somebody on here who ghosted, not that somebody, but some random person. And
hold on, let me call.
And
can you get on the show?
Because I think that a lot of people go through this, and it does send you into, if you're the one who's ghosted, it sends you into like this emotional turmoil. And I'm sure the people that are ghosting have their own emotional turmoil. So it'd be good to like hear both sides. But I think at the end of the day, if you don't communicate, and that's what ghosting is, just a complete lack of communication. If you don't communicate, how do you even function in life, right? Like, communication is key. Communication is everything. It truly is, right? So if you think that the best way to handle something is to just shut down and not communicate, I can't imagine how you function in life, right? Like, I can't imagine like any highly successful person could be like a ghoster, like, right? Like Elon Musk. You think he ever ghosted anybody? Like, like, no, never in his life, probably, right?
I bet money that Elon has ghosted someone.
I mean, ghosted, it means that he actually had a relationship with them and then just cut off, not like some fangirl or something.
Jeff Bezos has never ghosted anyone in his life.
That's what I mean. I think that it's showing a lack of emotional immaturity, and the fact that it's becoming more pervasive. Like, I disagree, it's more acceptable. I don't think it's more acceptable, but it is becoming more pervasive, I think.
Okay, yeah, I like your use of the word pervasive instead of acceptable.
Spell pervasive.
Pervasive. And you very much. Really? All everybody.
is interesting. So it leads me to believe we're going the wrong way in emotional wellness, right? Which, I mean, of course, especially this last freaking year. For those who care, Michael and I just had a literally like an hour and a half conversation yelling at each
It was
other
2 hours. I
that we
looked at
did
the
not
timer.
record
Yeah, we didn't
about
record
coronavirus.
purposefully.
Yes,
Purposefully.
but it was a really good conversation. Sorry you missed it. But anyways, um,
Why
especially
did
in
you
this
tell him
last,
that?
it's because especially in this last year, emotionally we've I would say
Oh,
gotten worse, right? And so I think we really need to concentrate on the tools and resources we have to start building our emotional maturity. And I think that's maybe where we're lacking. It's what I'm trying to work on in my own life always, right? Building personal development and self-exploration and how to not like be scared of confrontation, which I've never really been. That's not been my thing, but my thing is like getting out of my head and living the life that I want to live, even though when my head keeps me stuck, right? But all of it has to deal with our mental capabilities. And yeah, yes, you in the back.
have you ever ghosted anyone?
I was trying to think. So I got divorced in 2017, and if you
That's not ghosting.
listen, oh my god, do I have to smack you again?
I'm sorry. Go, please.
And so when you get divorced, you're on all the apps, all of them. You know what I'm saying, right? And I
We're
was
about to
trying to
get real personal. Huh?
I mean, I'm pretty sure I probably ghosted some people on the app. Like I was never like, never to the point where like I scheduled a date and didn't show up. Never like that. Like maybe like we
Well,
just
that would be ghosting.
yeah, okay, but I mean ghosting where like we chatted for a bit and then I maybe
Oh,
just
and then you just stopped
deleted
talking.
them or whatever. Like yes, to that extent, that's as far as I've ghosted something. I never would like plan something with somebody or tell them I'll be there and just not show up. To me, that's like one of I get, we all have our own values in life. And to me, it's like showing up is a big thing for me. And so I would never have somebody counting on me. And then at least not, if I couldn't, something happened, I would at least call and say it. I wouldn't just never be there. So no, not to that extent. No, to very lesser extent, perhaps, if you call that ghosting.
So you were on all the apps, huh?
That's what you got out of all that. I did all of that. You know this. You were playing poker with me at the time. You know this.
We need an episode on Nicole on all the apps. All the apps. I loved your profile though. Your profile on all your apps was just like,
it was so cute and it was so fun at the time. And
oh,
I say
it
that
was
now
ridiculous.
because I literally haven't dated in a year and a half. So there you go. So I dated my heart out for a bit. And now I'm a fucking hermit in my house under my bed. So there you go. But yeah, no, I haven't really.
I wasn't even aware of all the apps until I met you. You're like, wow. Yeah, Bumble, Tumble, Stumble, Grinder, Tinder, Pinder, Dinner. It's like, wow. But you used to always have these like seductive photos of you.
I had 0 seductive photos, by the way. I have photos that I still use as my profile photos on my social media. They were not seductive. I have pictures of me at the poker tables. They're definitely not seductive.
That always kind of like, yeah, I don't know, poker playing girl. Anyway, yeah. So
have you ever ghosted anybody?
Well, as you know, I've been married through the whole social media, social app coming of age. But yes, I've ghosted people. I have. Oh. Yeah. If I'm being honest, I mean, I think we should be honest. Then
maybe you can explain. Yes, and maybe you can explain why you did it in those moments. Do you recall why?
Yeah. So in my, I mean, I have to go back a long time ago, but in my dating years prior to being to dating my current wife, my only wife, yeah, I think there were times when but it was a little different because I would like go out on a date with someone and then decide for myself, like, I just don't like this person. In fact, I can remember one girl, that I thought was like really, really, really physically attractive. And I was like, yeah, she's, you know, she's fine. And I got the phone number and it was all pumped up and we went out to dinner and all that. And I just found her like loathsome. Just everything that came out of her mouth was just made me want to just get up and leave. And I would say for a good 2 or 3 weeks after that, she would, you know, at the time it was like page. You would page somebody.
Your
Right?
beeper,
It wasn't even
went off. 911.
yeah. 69. Yeah, no, sorry. And I just wouldn't return any calls or pages because I was just like, you know, I mean, that's just one person.
I was trying to envision you having the conversation with her, telling her, "Yeah, girl, I thought you were so fine, but I had a dinner with you, and I found you loathsome."
It was more like this. It was like, girl, I thought you were fine. Then you opened your mouth, and I was like, bye.
So
I was never a Mac, by the way. I've always been who I am.
You don't have to say it to that extent. Obviously, you thought that, but what stopped you from just saying like, "Hey, you know what? Like, we had a nice dinner, but I'm just not."
With it. You don't want to have a talk, especially with someone who you don't really know. You don't want to have a talk. Like, it just feels so uncomfortable. What am I gonna say? Like, you and I had zero in common. And not only that, I just find you annoying. But I've also had people ghost me. So this is not like, and I'm not talking about recent years ghosting. I'm talking about back in those dating days. I've had girls like, you know, gone out with them or they gave the phone number and then you called them and had a conversation and then you tried to call them back a next day or two and they just like didn't pick up. Clearly they didn't find you, you know, interesting. So they, you know, they lost out. I mean, what can I say? But yeah, I've been ghosted and I've done my little share of ghosting. You know what that actually leads me to, and I wasn't thinking about this in relation to this conversation, but I just now thought of this. Do you think that there's some karma involved there?
You'd have to believe in karma first, but yeah, and destiny.
Is there a reason why you're getting close and talking like this?
Because I know you're not going to like what I say. I don't necessarily believe in karma. Like, you know, you reap what you sow. And I think it works to the extent where, like, if you're a negative person, you know, your life's going to end up negative. You know, that's all, again, I think it's based on your choices. But I don't think there's necessarily karma there. But I think, you know, what kind of person do you want to be? Like, what kind of life are you going to live if you really can't fully communicate authentically with somebody? Right? Like, how on your deathbed you're gonna be like, oh, I never really I was never really close to anybody. I was never really 100% happy. I was never really. I think that's probably the first like step towards everything is being able to be actually who you are, being an authentic person. I think if you're ghosting people, you probably have a lot of issues with that, right?
I have to say that there's probably not been a topic that I have disagreed with you more on. I absolutely believe in karma, and I think karma is defined in many different ways by many different people. Clearly, there's like religious, like I don't even know if you know this, but what you just said was out of the Bible, that you reap what you sow. You know, and then there's karma, and there's, you know, different, you know, I'm thinking like Hindu sayings, and I can't remember what it is, but anyway, there's different looks at what we know as karma. I absolutely think there's karma. I think when you put certain stuff out there,
who's gonna come get you since you ghosted people?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe because of something I did in terms of ghosting people in my past, that stuff that you're even aware of in my recent past, you know, has sort of unfurled itself on me, because maybe I put some energy out there back in the day that came back in this way. I never, to be honest with you, I kid you not even just for this show, the podcast, I never thought about that till right now. Like, I wonder, like, you know, did some energy just come back and get me that I put out there? I see your look, by the way.
I see you, baby. Shaking that ass. Shaking it. Well, anyways, I mean, we can wrap up the conversation because obviously we're not going to solve this epidemic of ghosting.
I just
But
solved it.
oh, you solved it. It's
I
just
just solved
don't
it.
do it, or karma will bite you in the ass.
Yes, you missed it. It just totally went completely over your head. I just solved the whole
Just don't
issue.
do it. Solved.
Don't do
Done.
it. Don't ghost people, and you won't. Thou
Here's
shalt
your
not ghost.
here's your life coaching advice. Pay us the money, and we're going to give you the advice. Don't do it.
Pay us. Pay us
Pay
in
me
Bitcoin.
my money. Pay me
Pay
my
us
money.
in Bitcoin. Pay us in Bitcoin.
Oh, don't do it. Okay. Do we want to give them any tools, tips, resources to
Yes.
help further their advancement of their emotional maturity so that they
Yes,
don't do
I
it?
have it. I have it. I need you to quiet now. Here are the tools that you need to succeed in our non-ghosting society that we're building. Use your brain. Tell yourself, do not be unreliable and do not ghost people. Pay me in Bitcoin or Ethereum. I will give you my wallet address. You DM me. You send me something to highlyuncircumcised@gmail.com. We will make that transaction happen. Pay us our money today in crypto.
Prestige worldwide.
Did I tell you I put liquid paper on a bee?
That's what he's like. So just get to the point, Bob, or whatever his name is. Like, are you going to invest in our company or what? he just broke
After
the boat.
he destroyed his boat. If we don't have time, are you going to invest or not?
That advice was gold. Do you
gold.
want it or not? Just
it was gold.
Listen, if you're going to go somebody, just don't do it. There you go.
Just don't do it. That's the tools. Like, why you don't need therapy. You don't need to get therapized. Just don't do it. When you think like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to call Michael Moore. Call.
When you think I'm not going to do it, then just do it.
Just do it.
There you go.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, send it. I'll even take Dogecoin at this point. Send it. In cash.
Bolts and hoes.
Bolts and hoes.
All right. We'll see you next time.